welcome back to the Ospreys Fancast, the Black Feather Pod. Say hello, everyone.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
In sequence, all together now.
Sequence.
Hello.
1, 2, 3. Hello.
Hello.
Can't even get that right. Come on, guys. 1, 2, 3. Hello.
Hello, everyone.
God, if we had to do a Mexican wave, we'd be really bad. Like, do you know what I mean?
We don't have enough fans for that.
No. A big welcome from me. I'm Sam. I will be your host again this evening. This is episode number 3. We did the Difficult Second album last week and had some lovely feedback. So we thought, you know what, we'll come back and do it again. But this week we have got a guest. We've got the lovely Gavin, who is a Dragons fan. Say hello, Gavin.
Hello all.
Lovely to have you. Thank you so much for joining us, Gavin. We're really, really grateful. I've heard a rumour that you're a fan of horror films. Is this correct?
I am indeed, yes. Yeah.
Amazing. Me too. I absolutely adore horror. I'm going to put it out there to you guys now so that the listeners and our fellow podcasters can get to know us a little bit better. Now, I know horror is not everybody's bag and you might be a bit scared of it. However, what's your favourite horror film? And Gavin, as you are our guest, you can go first.
The Wicker Man.
Oh, good choice. Very, very good choice. I like it. Yeah.
If you'd asked me last week, I'd have probably said Scream, but one of
I
those
couldn't
two.
get on board with Scream at all. Who should I go to next? Darren, you said you're not a horror fan. So is that because you're a big girl or is it
Yeah, I think so, yeah. Just
Okay.
doesn't like scream to me like, oh my God, horror films, yeah, you know. It's just like, no, like hide in the corner, hide behind the settee, like, you know.
All right. If I want to go and watch a horror film, I'll go and protect you.
Thanks.
That's fine. Mark, favourite horror film?
Oh, I'm going to go back old school to a really bizarre film. I used to watch a lot of horror when I was a teenager, and I'm going to say a film called Reanimator, which is
I've not seen that.
Yeah, it's all these little body parts that sort of come alive separately and kill people. So
Yeah.
Amazing.
Like a
Stuart
1980s.
Gordon film, yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, 1980s film or whatever. So
I'm
going old school.
I'm going to add that to the list. Rod, my little muffin, do you like horror?
Well, I wish you would give me advance warning of this because I could have come up with a better answer. Because like Darren, no, I'm not a massive horror fan. I probably read more horror type stuff, you
That's
know,
good,
thrillery, horror-y stuff. But if I have to pick a film and a scene, because I'm much more of a fantasy nut, and I'm a massive J.R. Tolkien nerd of the books and of the Peter Jackson films, I'll pick a scene rather than a film, and I'll go for you know, the Shelob scene in the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Yeah.
Because that's pretty horrifying. And I think actually, if you look at Tolkien's writing, he does write horror very, very well, and he can really create the tension in a way that isn't, you know, explicitly horror, but it does send chills down your spine. So I'll go for the for the Shelob scenes in the Lord of the Rings, and just to prove to you, because it'll probably come up again, because I am that much of a Tolkien nut, but to prove to you how much of a nut I am, I've got Tolkien's monogram on the back of my arm there.
Listen, right, if we are talking...
I'm dedicated to the cause.
If we are talking tattoos, right, if I was to put it out there to you, how many tattoos would you guess that I've got?
Oh, Christ.
7.
5.
Anything else?
I'll go 3, and I'll hazard a guess that one of them's on the top of your foot.
I got 15.
Oh, have you?
Wow.
I've got 15.
Is one on the top of your foot?
I got 2 foot tattoos. I've got a sun. I've got the Bohemian sun and moon on. Well, I've got the sun on my right foot and the moon on my left foot. And I've got something similar then across the top of my back. I am ashamed to admit I have got a tramp stamp. However, my legs are like a Disney colouring book. Not even good. I've got 4, 5, 6. I've got 7 Disney tattoos of Stitch, Lady and the Tramp, Marie, and I've also got has anybody seen Lilo and Stitch? I got Elbow Stitch tattooed on my knee, And someone in work takes great delight on telling people I've got an Elvis tattoo, and I'm like, no, I ain't got an Elvis tattoo. I've got a Stitch's Elvis tattoo. So yeah, so I'm with you. I'm a big Disney freak. So I'm there with you on the tattoos. I understand it. I get it.
Yeah, we got to display something so our people can find us. And what you can't see underneath Gav's beard, he's got 2 Frankenstein bolts tattooed on the side of his neck.
There. Yeah, mine are all hidden. Everybody's always really surprised when they see my legs, and they're like, I'm like, I know, I'm a human colouring book. Horror for me, I gotta say, I love The Exorcist. Absolutely adore The Exorcist. One of my favourite things to do is to do the possession voice, because my brother is petrified of horror. Couldn't be more different from me, and I always do that to him, like to freak him out, because he gets really thing. And again, going back to churches, when we go to see Italy and Wales next year, I booked us tickets to go to the Vatican. Now I am entirely convinced my brother's going to walk in there and he's going to burst into flames. But I keep saying to him, it's all right, Gab, we've got a young priest and an old priest. And he's like, you need to shut up about The Exorcist now. But I'm also a fan of Amityville and the Poltergeist. I love that. Don't go into the light, Marianne. I could go on, but
do we get a year this?
No, because there's swear words.
Okay.
And we don't need, like, you've obviously not seen the Poltergeist with the possession voice and the crucifix.
I'll YouTube it later.
No. Don't, it will scare you.
Definitely don't do it in work.
Cool.
Please don't do that. It's not safe.
Cool. Thanks for the heads up, guys. Much appreciated.
Yeah. But now everybody's learned a little bit about us, which I think is always nice, really. It's nice to know who you're watching and what's going on. We'll move on. Now, we're on week 3 of the Toby Booth leaving the Ospreys thing, and I kind of thought we would have put it to bed last week. However, Scrum 5 has done a pre-URC season podcast this week, and Alex Cuthbert was on there and made some really interesting remarks regarding Toby Booth, saying that he expects that he's going to leave after Christmas. And a couple of comments were made as well about they believe it to be due to budget constraints, and money and purse strings were mentioned. And one of the things that they'd already said, which we wondered and we talked about, I'm not sure whether it was last week or the week before, was that Tips had already stepped up to a coaching role in the background and had already been doing a lot of defensive coaching in the last year. I'm a bit on the fence with this, whether it was a good idea for Cuthbert to make the comments he made, because he has only just left, so he's obviously still got friends and stuff at the club. So I would probably believe what he's saying. I think it would probably be coming from a good place. However, I don't particularly appreciate that being thrown out there at the beginning of the season. I think that should have been a on-tour talk, maybe. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on it, Rod. You look...
It's tough, isn't it? Because we still feel massively connected to him for all purposes. He's still a player that next season hasn't started yet, so it almost feels like he's still ours. But you know, that's not the reality going forward. Listening to that episode, I think it very much sounded like he was just speaking off the cuff. It didn't sound like he knew anything specific that we don't know. It sounded like he was theorizing, and we've all been doing a little bit of that. It's just it's different when it's in such a public arena, isn't it? But what's more concerning, I don't know if you've caught this, and I only managed to listen today to the rugby pod with Jim Hamilton and Andy Gould, and they've done Toby Booth joined them and did a bit of an interview with them, and he basically said that a similar thing. He didn't shut down the questions as to whether he would go earlier, and it sounded very much that he would be opportunity driven. And you know, if something presents itself, he said that he'd hope that Ospreys would and Lance would consider giving that being flexible and giving him that opportunity if it did arise. So he's clearly, you know, part of this for him has been putting himself on the market early, and that hurts a bit. personally.
I start crying now.
but as a employee, which essentially he is, he's an employee of the club. You would expect that in any role, wouldn't you? That if an opportunity comes your way, that you could have frank and honest discussions with your employer about your opportunities for the future. But it's all playing out in a way that's a bit more sort of public than I'd like. I'm almost hearing too much about it, and I know that's what we're here for. We're here to get the scoop and to discuss things, but it feels really, really raw. And I wouldn't hold any umbrage against Toby if he did leave. That's on him, you know. He's not tied to the club. He's not from the region. He's not Welsh. He's not even tied to rugby as a sport. He's talked about working in other high performance sports in the past and potentially again in the future. So who knows what will come his way. I won't hold it against him if he goes, but yeah, I mean, fingers crossed he doesn't. But you know, he's put himself on the market. I wouldn't be surprised if he's got a lot of interest because he's done a bloody good job.
Yeah. Mark, what are your feelings, kid?
Yeah, I was going to say, it's sort of clear there's something to this, isn't there? I mean, Toby Booth initially played the party line in terms of the mutual agreement thing or whatever, and that was the, you know, very much the messaging that was coming out to the club when the announcement was first made. But now in these couple of weeks that we've sort of removed since that initial announcement, there's sort of just more and more things coming to light, and Toby Booth himself seems to be speaking more openly about the situation as well. Obviously, there's been the Rugby Pod episode today, and then about 7 o'clock tonight there's been sort of a preview being put up of an interview that's going out on Scrum 5 tomorrow night, as sort of with Toby Booth. I'm sort of paraphrasing what he's saying here, but basically saying that he would hope, if he has an opportunity to leave during the season to another position, that the Ospreys would let him go. So, you know, it's clearly in his mind that he may not see out the season. And, you know, who knows, you know, if there's a struggling URC team, a struggling, you know, Premiership team during the season, you know, who better to pick up the role and sort of make a difference mid-season to a team that may be sort of struggling to decide to get rid of their coach. You know, he's going to be in demand at some point during the year. And it sounds like this sort of progression that they've put in place in terms of Mark Jones and Tipperick is very much with that in mind, that, you know, he's likely going to go at some point during the season.
Yeah. That, I know, obviously, I don't want to say upset because it sounds like I'm being sarky, but I'm not. And I know that this has upset you, for want of a better phrase. So how are you feeling about it all now, and the possibility of him walking away just after or whenever he gets a job? Because let's face it, he's got a family to feed. He needs a job. So I don't blame him in the slightest.
No, I don't blame him either.
You know, and at that high level of tier of sport, it is a revolving door, isn't it? You know, if you're either performing and you're pilched by someone else, or you're not performing and you're out the door. So how do you feel about it now, Da?
I find it quite interesting, right? Because when it first got announced, and yes, I'm going back to previous episodes that we've done on this, that it was all hush-hush, because in that interview he did with Lance and that Wales Online guy, he was shocked. And everyone could see, like, it was all hush-hush. And then, like, 2 or 3 weeks down the line, you know, we got Alex Cuthbert talking about it. You got Rugby Podcast talking about it. You got Toby Booth saying, oh, yes, all about money and all that. So I feel like it wasn't exactly, like, hush-hush, because, like, this is my opinion, and you can have your say on it, or the listeners can have their say on it. But it's funny now because, like I just said now, it's funny because it was all hush-hush. But was it? Because, you know, you had Alex Cuthbert talking about it on Scrum 5. You had what Rod said on the Rugby Podcast. I feel like they were, like, told, oh, yeah, he's going. Don't say too much until, like, another, like, 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and then we can just, like, unravel everything. But like you said, I you know, I speak for a few supporters, or a lot of supporters. It's sad to see him go. Like, he's done amazing, and it's a shame he couldn't like wait for like another year or two, where Lance said more money's coming in from the Welsh Rugby Union and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, like you said, you know, he's got a family to feed, you know, he's got a wife, he's got kids. You can't blame him for going. And he's done a bloody good job. And I'm going to miss him. He's a fantastic coach. And whoever...
If you start crying now, we're going to fall out.
But I'm full of cold, so my emotions are everywhere. So
you do wear your heart on your sleeve, mind.
No, yeah, someone's got to do it. See, you can't.
Yeah, it's not me.
Yeah, that's me. That is.
But Gavin, obviously, as a Dragons fan, how have you seen this play out? What's your thoughts on it?
Well, I don't have the attachment, so I've kind of looked at it a bit more kind of coldly, I suppose. I think the plan going forward is a good plan. Mark Jones, I think have potential to be a great coach, and Tips is going to bring his stardust to it as well. In terms of Booth, he's done an awful lot with very little. Because we've all got the same budget, but you've done considerably better on that. So he takes some credit for that. But I really don't think he'll be there by January. I imagine the minute I heard that announcement, and I said to Jamie, who I do our Dragons pod with, and I said he'll be gone by Christmas, because it's like if you've got a commitment, but that commitment's short term, your eye wanders, doesn't it? And if I'll pick a random side, if Newcastle decided, oh, he might be the person we need, or someone, then you're going to look at that.
Yeah.
So
the headhunters are going to come call in now, aren't they? The headhunters are going to come knock in. Yeah.
Yeah, because he's put himself out there, hasn't he? He said I'd look at other jobs. He's only got a short-term commitment at Osprey, so the contract buyout's not going to be huge either, if there's going to be any. So, like I say, I imagine he won't be there for the end of the season.
You've hit the nail on the head, Gav. It's got that feeling of inevitability now. It really has. It felt like they knew that from the start when they made the announcement 3 weeks ago, and they've tried to go for a soft, break in the news, but it hasn't really felt that way. But it's just got that feeling now, like it is going to happen.
I'm getting there.
It's speaking it into fruition, really, isn't it? It's speaking it into fruition, into reality. Yeah.
He's in a shop window, isn't he? And people are going to buy because he's shown his pedigree. Not that he's the last puppy at the pound by any means. But he is in that shop window. But thank you for that, Gav, because it's always interesting to us to have outside perspectives that don't have that attachment. And I suppose that brings us quite neatly on to our regional reviews that we've done. We've all picked a region. And we've asked you to come on, Gav, because obviously our first game of the season is against the Dragons up at Rodney Parade on Saturday. I know that, Darren, are you still intending to go?
Yep.
Fantastic. I would normally go, but I'm actually going to a show in the arena on Saturday night. I'm going to go and see a female drag queen comedian called Bianca Del Rio, which probably means absolutely nothing to you guys if you don't watch RuPaul. But all I will say is she is Frankie Boyle on steroids. She's hilarious. So I'm taking my brother to see his first ever drag thing. So I am kind of gutted that I'm not going. But because I've always had
the wrong drag. It's the wrong drag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've always had a fantastic time when we've gone up there. I love the setup, the marquee, the Doom Bar and everything else. So I am kind of gutted that I'm not going. Rod is still doing his Dora the Explorer.
I'm going to try be there. So I'm traveling that day. And if the timings work out, and if I'm still, not a zombie from all my travel back from where I currently am in the Netherlands, I will try and make it. I've bought a ticket in anticipation, and if I don't make it, well, I'm 25 quid short. But I'd love to be there for first game of the season.
But living the dream.
So I'll try and make it.
So, Mark, you were looking into the Dragons, and I'd really like to hand this over now to you and to Gavin for you to have a chat, because I've kind of, and I suppose Rod and Darren have done the same, I've kind of stood back and not looked at them, because I think it's going to be really interesting that you've looked at it and your perspective as an outsider for Gav as a Dragons fan. So I'm leaving it to you two.
Marvellous. Thanks very much, Sam. First of all, I do like the Dragons. I think if the Ospreys didn't exist, then I think the Dragons would be the team that I would support. Well, it's fairly simple. You're not the big city boys from Cardiff, and you're not the Turks. So it's quite straightforward, really. But there we are.
He says that to everyone who comes on, Gav. He says that to everyone.
He's just flattering you, Gav.
Yeah, so I've been tasked with looking at the Dragons. So thinking about your signings, you haven't bought in bulk, but you've bought bulk.
Yes,
for sure during the off season. So looking at your pack, first of all, I've sort of picked out 3 names. Stephen Cummins, sort of giant lock coming in from France the last 3 years with Poe, Exeter Scarlets player. Funaki, Tongan international, coming in from Moana Pacifica, and Shane Lewis who's a bit closer to home, coming in from Cardiff. 3 big lads. That seems to be the main kind of focus in this off season, is to buy bulk, to bulk up the forward pack. In watching the Dragons last season, would that have been your move as a fan in terms of what the club needed?
Oh, absolutely. All the way through last season, myself and Jamie talked about the need for big ball carriers in the pack. I don't know how much you saw of us last season, but there were 2 areas that we were underpowered in. In the scrum, it absolutely struggled against most teams, and that was a major issue. And part of that was to do with the quality of our front row, which hasn't really been solved and is still a problem. But it was also to do with the bulk. But it was also getting across the gain line.
Yeah.
And we didn't have big ball carriers. And it was George Knott certainly got himself around the field, Tame Basham, Aaron Wainwright. But the problem is you lose Wainwright, you lose Basham for large chunks of the season to international rugby. So it was a deliberate choice. And when we spoke to Di Flanagan a couple of weeks ago, he said that had been the case. They said they were looking for players who were heavier, but were physically kind of stronger, but were also quick. They wanted athleticism and size. So that was absolutely at the heart of what they were doing.
Yeah. So which of those 3 excites you most in terms of your forward signings?
Well, I think being really parochial, Shane Lewis Hughes is the one I'm most excited about. As he'd been a player that I had mentioned in the season that I would really like to see us sign, because I think he gives us extra dimensions in the back row. Because I'm a big fan. I'm not a fan of hybrid players. I think if you're a second row, stay in the second row, and if you're a 6, play at 6. But he can do both roles quite well, because I think he has a physicality that he brings to the second row. But at 6, he's really quite destructive. And it was interesting watching the Judgment Day game between you guys and Cardiff at the end of the season. And kind of, I would describe Osprey's style of play as quite pragmatic. You try to win the battles around the field, and there's that set piece. And Lewis Hughes was the only one really who could kind of stand up to your pack. He was the only one really giving them as good as they got.
Yeah.
Because Cardiff are lovely. They've got those lovely tarty backs.
They have, yeah.
But the forwards are less kind of dominant. But and I think he's a big loss for them. I know Cardiff fans don't think so, but that. But he's one I'm excited about. As for the others, I think Steve Cummins he is a big lump, and that's not a bad idea. No. And Funaki, I'd be interested to see. He's injured at the moment.
That's it, yeah.
So we won't see him on Saturday, but. And back row is an issue Saturday, because we have no Wainwright, have no Funaki, and have no Tame Basham.
Yeah. So obviously you're hoping that the forwards that come in will give you a better platform to build from this season.
Yeah.
In terms of the backs coming in, I mean, I suppose the name that stands out the most is probably Lloyd Evans at sort of fly half, coming in from Gloucester. Is sort of, are you hearing that he is going to be the 10 this year? Is that the idea? Is he going to be?
Well, I think the plan is to split it. So we have a lot of 10s on paper, but none of them are really 10s. So we have Kai Evans, formerly of your parish, who has played 10 for us, but isn't really a 10, is a 15. And we have Angus O'Brien, who is does play 10, but also plays 12, can't play 15.
Yeah.
So, and the problem was last season, Will Reid, who was 22, I think, at last season, ended up playing an awful lot of rugby. And by the end of the season, I just felt for him because he looked exhausted, and playing 10 behind the pack that's getting battered is not easy. And particularly when you're a kid who's just come out to play in semi-pro rugby, essentially. He'd come up from Newport RFC.
Yeah.
So I think he's there, yes, predominantly to play 10, but also to share that role with Will Reid. I think Will Reid is still a project.
Yeah, so develop him as well, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And then just in terms of just one more name then to sort of throw at you, bit of a wild card, I suppose. Harry Wilson coming in from the Waratahs. Don't know anything about him at all. You probably know far more about him than I do, but what do you make of that signing?
Again, big lad, 6'3", 17 stone, can play centre, can play fullback, can play wing. Well respected in Australian rugby, apparently. Kind of lots of chat saying he was going to break through into the Waratahs setup.
So he's 24, isn't he? Yeah, so he's still young, yeah.
Yeah, I kind of lots of good chat about him. The analyst Sam Lana talks about Moneyball signings, and I think this is pretty much what Harry Wilson is.
That's it, yeah.
We realise we can't afford a huge amount of money, but we've seen this guy who's looking for regular first team rugby, fits the physical mould that we want. So that's what we've gone for him. I would say in the centres, we are spoiled for choice at the minute, but because we've got a number of really high quality youngsters as well. We've got Joe Westwood and Harry Ackerman, both of whom are big units, big strong lads. Harry Ackerman's 19, Joe Westwood's 20, and they are really exciting prospects as well. So, and last year I think where centre was a problem for us, it's becoming a better position for us now.
Yeah, brilliant. I'm obviously one of the other big moves you've made is off the field with Fio Tiatia coming in, who's obviously familiar to us as Ospreys fans as well. How big a difference are you expecting him to make in terms of the defence?
Well, our defence last season was not great. Neither was our attack, if I'm honest. I think everyone we've spoken to about Philo has talked about what he's brought in terms of attitude. So we've spoken to Bradley Roberts over the summer. We've spoken to Di Flan over the summer. We've spoken to Rhys Bloomberg over the summer, and all of them talked about he's bringing a different mentality to the club, a different way of thinking. And one coach isn't going to make the difference one way or the other, because you can only work with what you've got. But I think if you have, and Di Flanagan himself kind of admits that perhaps there wasn't an attitude, a kind of high performance attitude is what he talked about when he spoke to us. And Philo was part of that. And then Dr. Ryan Chambers, who was the Welsh conditioning kind of lead, has now come in as our strength and conditioning lead as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to make a real difference in terms of just that high performance kind of culture and high performance environment. And I think that's where we're lacking to CU or to Cardiff, perhaps, because as much as Cardiff only won one more game than us, they were a hell of a lot more competitive on the field.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, in terms of expectations now for the season, obviously last year, only 3 wins, but I think more sort of telling almost is the fact that there's only 1 try bonus point and only 3 losing bonus points. Do you think that's where maybe differences could be made this year? Obviously, you're looking to win more games, but is it a case of also trying to pick up a few more losing bonus points, being competitive, staying in games as well?
Yeah, my view is we aren't going to finish 8th. We aren't going to finish 10th. Kind of if we finish 14th, we'll be happy.
Yeah.
But what I want to see is similar to what Cardiff had, that they were picking up losing bonus points, They were scoring tries. They were within, you know, a score or two of Munster and Leinster. And what I don't want to do is go to Cork and get pummeled by 50 points, and go to Dublin and get pummeled by 50 points, and go to Johannesburg and ship 60 points. I just want us to be more competitive. I'm utterly realistic, and some might say pessimistic, but it's not pessimistic. We've come 15 3 years in a row.
Yeah.
Finishing 14th would be progress.
To me, Cardiff at the end of the day won one more game than you last season.
Yeah.
And from the media talk, you would have thought that they had a fantastic year. You know, all to do with the style of play and everything else or whatever. But you know, realistically, they only had one more win than the Dragons did.
But they were competitive.
Exactly.
They were competitive against Munster. They were competitive against Leinster, against the Stormers, which we weren't.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, we were competitive against Scarlets, against Zebra, and against you in one game.
Yeah.
And Edinburgh, you know, and that's not enough.
So that probably leads us on then to Saturday. You're saying you're competitive against us. You battered us, to be fair, at so Rodney Parade last season. So, Sam, should we have a look at previewing Saturday's game, or what are everybody's thoughts? I mean, what are your thoughts, first of all? How are your confidence levels going into the first game of the season against us?
Well, I am confident because it's the first game of the season. And I think if I came on your pod and said, oh, we'll lose by 10 points first game of the season, I don't know. I don't know what that tells us about anything. So I think we can win. And I did predict we would win on the Dragons Lair pod. So I'd like to think we can win, but then we can quite as easily lose it as well.
Yeah, exactly. But first game of the season is, so you have to be positive at the start of the season. You can't go into a season thinking you're going to lose every game. So we'll accept that.
We're in a strong place, I think. We're in a stronger place than we were this time last year. So
yeah.
Brilliant. I think what sums it up is I was speaking to somebody recently who doesn't follow Welsh rugby very closely, but even they acknowledge that you're a banana skin for us in recent years. Clearly that's something that's you know, percolating through, you know, the sport. It's a well-known thing, and I get bloody well nervous coming down to play you. But what I will say is it is one of my favourite Welsh derbies to go away for, and I hope we can show up and not repeat you know, more recent memories, and can create some new positive ones for myself as an Ospreys fan, because I've only been down a couple of times to Rodney Parade, and they haven't been good experiences on the scoreboard.
To be fair, this isn't a relatively new thing. Back in your Galactico days, we could still beat you at Rodney Parade. You know, kind of a number of times during the height of the Ospreys power, we still won at Rodney Parade.
Yeah, and it's a common. We've had a couple of questions on our socials across the week, which have kind of all said the same, that like, Dragons not mixing my animals, are the monkey on our back. And someone says we owe the Dragons one at Rodney Parade after the last couple of years. We always go there and fail to do ourselves justice. Why do you think that is? And I think Rod and I were having a side conversation, and I think Darren, I spoke to you about it as well, is the pure atmosphere of Rodney Parade and how close you are to the pitch, and it is quite vocal, and you've got the shaded terrace across from the seats and things, and I do think the atmosphere is a lot to do with it. Dad, is this your first time going up to Rodney Parade?
Yeah.
So you're yet to experience it, so I'd be really interested to hear your views on that next week when we look at how the game has gone. Gav, why do you think you're so hard for us to beat there? Is it that tinderbox of closeness to the pitch?
I don't think Rodney Parade is as hostile a place as it was. And I used to go there as an away fan pre-regional days. I'm an Ebbw Vale fan, and I used to go there when there was Newport RFC, and it was a horrible place to go and play rugby. Absolutely horrible place, because, like you say, it's old-fashioned. Everyone's right on the pitch.
Yeah.
There's no room, you know, it is a ground that hasn't changed. Well, it has changed a lot, but it hasn't changed really in shape since in the 70s. And it's quite, I imagine as a player, you've got quite a loud cloud just right on your shoulder all the way through. And they take great delight in laughing at knock-ons and he knocked it on song and all this. You know, it becomes quite a tough place to play, I imagine. Not as tough as it used to be, and we aren't winning as many games at home as we should. But I think for the Welsh teams, we do bring something else, and it's challenging. And none of the other, well, you know, maybe no, I wouldn't even say the Turks. I think we have got the most old-fashioned ground.
Yeah.
And lots of players aren't used to and players aren't used to playing like that at places like that anymore.
Just you wait till we move to St Helens, because
well, absolutely. I think it was St Helens or the Brewery Field, or from you know, they are places the clubs used to play, and
from that era of rugby clubs, isn't it? Yeah,
absolutely. And as much as the Swansea.com stadium is a lovely stadium,
not a rugby stadium.
Well, not when you've got the crowds you have. If you were filling it, I think it would be quite an intimidating place to go. But, you know, it's...
I'm going to say something controversial now. I hate Parc y Scarlets. I have gone there for the last 3 years, and I, without a doubt, will never, ever, ever, and I mean ever, and if anybody sees that I am booking a ticket this year, you have my permission to slap me because I hate it there. It is absolutely awful. I don't know, and I'm really sorry, and I'm probably going to get hate from this if there are any Scarlets fans watching. Parking is abysmal. Absolutely abysmal. If you do manage to park on the Trostre side, because of the way that the road is set up, you've got to walk like 10 minutes that way to come back 10 minutes this way, because you can't come out the nearest way. We went last year for the opening game of the season, and it took us, we were there early, we went for food first to Cattle & Co in Llanelli, so we were there in plenty of time. It took us over an hour to park because it was just awful. So we got into Parc y Scarlets around about 15-20 minutes before kick-off. Yeah, we were still queuing to get through the turnstiles at 5 past the hour.
Yeah, that's not enough time to get a pint.
Oh, I don't drink twice, so that didn't bother me. But it just, I would honestly say, and excuse my French, I would rather shit in my hands and clap than go there again. I know, like, controversial, I know, but yeah, no, absolutely not. And the brain.
But back to the game though, Gav. So I went trying to cut you off there, so I'm sorry.
That's all right. No, you bring it back.
I know we got a limited amount of time with Gav.
I know
I'm a busy man, and
I'm a time freak, and
I got a couple of questions, questions for him. So I'll be going into this game certainly very glad that your back row is so depleted, because I think that's one of your strongest areas of your game. You've got a couple of stalwarts for your team there that are regular features within the Welsh setup. It's an equally strong region for us. Obviously, we've always had a pretty strong back row in recent years. So yeah, I'm glad that yours is going to be a little bit more depleted. But one player that I really will have my eye on is Leon Brown, because he's back from injury now. He suffered a lot last year. Wales as a whole, we're suffering with a sort of lack of tight heads at the moment. What do you want to see from him this season? Because he's going to be an important part of the Welsh setup, and obviously a key player for you going forward. He's still got lots of years ahead of him. What's sort of the next 12 months going to be like from him, and what do you want to see?
Well, Di Flanagan has already said that he's not going to be there all the time, basically. That he's going to play a couple of games, then he's going to be rested, then he's going to play a couple of games, then he's going to be rested until we reach a point where he can do it all the time. So really, what I would like to see is just a run of games. I'd just like to see a run of games. He played 2 games last season. He played 2 games a season before. You know,
Yeah.
it's not enough, and we've lost Lloyd Fairbrother, so we are really scraping. Well, not scraping about. We've got 4 tight heads, but I would say only Leon's at the level that he needs to be at. You know, the others are. Chris Coleman is fine, but he is not a URC tight head. And then you've got Luke Yandel, who's 20, 21. So, you know, kind of, he just needs to play more games.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm not like just a exclusive regional rugby fan. I'm also a Welsh rugby fan. So from that perspective, I'm invested in his progression as one of our sort of key tight head options going forward. So I will be keeping an eye on him. It was interesting to get your take on him. But yeah, he's had a difficult couple of seasons. I didn't realise it was as low as 2 games that he played last season. It's not a lot at all, innit? I swear I saw him more than that, but maybe he was just.
Well, he came back from injury, went into the Wales squad, picked up an injury.
Gone again.
Yeah. And were those injuries of a similar nature each time? Was it a recurring thing, or was it just different things?
He is just prone to injuries. There's been knee issues, there's been shoulder issues. But Jamie from our pod saw him in an open day and spoke to him, and he said, yeah, he was feeling really fit and looked in good shape, because he's an athletic lad. You know, he's a modern tight head. He's not an old-fashioned looking tight head. He's big and athletic, and he's looking good. And Dow Flanagan said he's looking good as well. So I'm hopeful.
Yeah,
he gets quite a lot of abuse online, doesn't he, when he doesn't scrummage well, like.
Well, he doesn't, and you know, I've said this myself, but I think that's modern props. I think we've sacrificed big scrummaging props for mobile props, and you know, you as a team had probably the best scrummaging unit of the Welsh sides last year. You know, kind of because you had the right balance of guys who could get around the field, but guys who could still shove the opposing props ahead of his backside. But you know that.
But I don't reckon we can make a true assessment of his scrummaging capabilities when he plays 2 games per season. Because what you hear, you know, I played in the back row, so I'm not, you know, a vital part of that scrummaging machine. But hearing people talk about it, and S&C coaches as well, they always talk about you need that run of games. You can't just do the odd game here and there and expect to dominate the person in front of you, because it's as much about the micro movements within the dynamics of a scrum as it is just raw power. And it's the micro stuff that you learn week on week when you're tested against different individuals, and you learn how to manipulate the players in front of you. So I don't think we've had a chance to see whether he could be a good scrummager. He's certainly got the power to be potentially a good scrummager, hasn't he?
It's the technical stuff, though. You're absolutely right. Yeah. Tight head's the most technical position on the field, and I say that every week essentially. Being a tight head's incredibly difficult because you've got to do all the stuff a prop does, but you have to do it one-handed essentially on your weaker hand all the time, and there's a lot of very difficult stuff going on. And he probably hasn't had to run the games to develop that technical skill and that technical ability. But if you compare him to someone like Lloyd Fairbrother, who was probably our best technical scrummaging tight head, you can see the difference in the practice, just about where the bind is, about how he moves the bind. It's modern scrummaging as opposed to the more traditional kind of thing.
Yeah.
You
know, I think it is a very I know they're all specialised positions, but I think that front 5 is very specialised, and nobody really knows what goes on in there unless you're in there. Do you? It is a world of mystery unless you're involved in that. And I don't think, you know, anybody knows what goes on in there until you've been in there.
I've played front row and I don't know what's going on half the time. You know, it's
just hugs and kisses.
Yeah,
It's
there's a
sweet
lot
nothings
going
and-
on with your head upside down, essentially. You know, it's
Yeah.
there is a lot going on, and yeah, when you see a skilled prop, just about the subtlest shift in bind and the impact it can have.
Yeah.
You know, it really is quite a wonderful thing to watch. And if you look at someone like Beelum, the Irish prop, you know, the way he shifts his weight at the last minute, people say, oh, he scrummages sideways. Well, you know, he shifts his weight appropriately at the last minute. You know,
He's on the edge, isn't he?
Yeah.
Darren, have you got any questions or anything that you want to discuss with Gavin?
Gav, I know you mentioned it briefly earlier, but realistically, where do you reckon the Dragons going to finish this season?
Realistically, 15th. Optimistically, 14th. If you catch me on a really good point, 13th.
Who's coming beneath you in that 13th scenario?
Scarlets, Zebra, and one of the South African sides.
Oh, which one? I want to know which one. You can't just say that.
See, I'm talking myself in. The thing is, I'm saying that I really don't even think that's true. If Sharks don't get all their internationals out, then I think Sharks struggle. But other than that, Cornet maybe.
Yeah,
this is the thing. When you predict, you've asked the right question. It's easy for me to say 13th, but then who do I think is going to finish below us?
Yeah.
Which is why I realistically think 14th, because I do think we can finish above Scarlets and Zebra.
Do you know what? And I really love that. I think we can all be Betty Big Balls, can't we? And be like, oh, we're going to be this, we're going to be that. I really love that you've come on and said, I'll be happy with 14th, because that way you're looking for the positives. And I think as fans, sometimes we can be super critical. And like someone said earlier on, giving grief on social media, I don't hold sway with that. You know, it's not, we're not in their shoes, we're not playing their game, we don't know what they're facing. And I hate to see that kind of thing online to anybody, but especially like sporting figures and everything else. So I think it's quite refreshing that you've come on and you've said, look, I'm going to be happy with 14th, because it kind of takes the pressure away from it. You know, if I'd like to say, you're our first guest, and I think you've been a lovely guest. You've been wonderful. I may even throw in a pen and a notebook.
Well, I feel like
I'm
a winner.
spoiling you.
I feel like a winner.
Oh, do you know what? Make me a winner. I know that Darren is in contact with you, so please let me know and I will get you some stuff sent. Obviously, we're your guys if you ever need us to come on and talk the breeze with you. More than happy to go ahead and do that.
Absolutely. We'll when we come down to
autumn and
Swansea,
summer,
we'll
autumn internationals.
Yes.
We'll be there. Thank you so much for joining us. Really, really grateful and appreciate your time and the insight that you've given us. You are more than welcome to stay with us and shoot the breeze if you want, but I do appreciate the time.
Can I just add something? Sorry.
Yeah, of course.
Gav, good luck for the season, not after you, right?
No. Well, thank you all. I've really enjoyed it, and I look forward to speaking to you all again. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your time, Gav. Really appreciate it. Brilliant first guest. And let us know now so I can send those things to you.
I will do. Cheers, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye now. Bye.
And then there were 4. So, from the Dragons, I think we can all agree, thumbs up, 10 out of 10, would recommend Gav. Obviously, if you like listening to podcasts, then please give his podcast a listen. We'll pop that on our social so you can follow. As I say, really grateful for him coming on and being a fantastic first guest on our pod.
Quality insights, that was. Yeah, it's really interesting to see.
And the passion, love the passion. So we've got the other 3 regions. Now, Rod, you do the short straw with Ospreys because, you know, we thought that last week, didn't it? But do you know what? I'll leave you till last. Let's go to Darren and his is Champagne Glory Boys of Cardiff Blues.
Oh, Christ. Right then, Cardiff then. They've been busy this season, this summer. There's 14 in and 14 out at Cardiff. Some notable people have joined, as people may know. The likes of Callum Sheedy from Bristol, Ala Davis from Saris, ex-Scarlet and ex-Ospreys, of course. Dan Thomas, another one, former Bristol player. They've also got, I'm trying to look down here, Rory Jennings. Anyone know Rory Jennings? He's a Newcastle player. He looks good for them. Obviously, quite a few out. The noticeable ones that have left are Thomas Williams and obviously Rhys Carey. I think Rhys Carey is going to be a big loss for them in that front row position. And obviously, like we alluded to when Gav was on the pod on earlier, Shane Lewis-Hughes, I reckon he's going to be a big loss to them. They've also lost Alice Summerhill, Gonzalo Bertrano, Josh Turnbull, who retired, Ellis Jenkins retired, Tamani, Holloholo, Arwell Robinson, and Owen Lane. They got a new captain this season. I think he's new captain. I don't follow Cardiff religiously, so I apologise. Liam Belcher, he said, and I got it written down here, it was a proud moment when he was announced club captain for the season. And two more things, sorry. They are hoping that Talupe Faletau will be back for October. Obviously, he's been up with injuries left, right, and centre. I feel sorry for him. He's such a talented player. Obviously, he's got a broken arm, so I feel sorry for Faletau, but hopefully he'll be back soon. And one thing that I picked up on, obviously Cardiff start their URC tomorrow. New signing Callum Sheedy start at 10. Now, last season, De Beer was in my opinion, De Beer was their standout player. And now Sheedy's come in and he's gone straight into that starting position, which competition's healthy in any team. But I'd love to hear De Beer's thoughts on this, because Sheedy's come in, obviously Cardiff born and everything, but I think it's unfair to put Sheedy in there and not have De Beer starting, because De Beer, like I said, De Beer was their best player last season.
Give him a run out. Give him a run out. What's the point of signing him if you're not going to give him a run out?
True.
Homegrown talent. Protect homegrown talent.
But he's injury prone, isn't he? So.
But he isn't going to come back and sit on the bench, is he?
You want to pay. You want to play first team rugby.
And it is tough on De Beer because he played, was it 22 games or something last season?
Yeah.
Led the Harlem Globetrotters of rugby across the field last year as well. Their backs went really, really well last year, to be fair. And De Beer at 10 was a big part of it. And she'd coming in. Cardiff obviously see it as an upgrade, and De Beer is right to be cross about that, I would imagine. But
he was always a stopgap, though, wasn't he?
He was, yeah. It'd be interesting to see how that's shared over the season, but I can, Sheedy will get the lion's share of games, won't he?
Yeah, and you've got to have strength and depth there, and there's no point having him. You're right. There's no point having him there if he can't play, and it's only a benefit for the Welsh rugby as a whole for him to come on, because I do think we do need something there in 10 at a Welsh level, and he's young enough, to start learning. You need a 10 to control.
And of course, they also have our current international 10, but they won't play him at 10.
No.
They'll play him at 12 or play him, but not at 10. So,
where do you ultimately think they're going to end up, Da?
I've gone down to finish 6th. I don't know why. Someone's telling me they're going to finish higher than normal this season, but that's just my opinion.
Did you say 6th?
Yeah.
6th?
Yeah.
You have to knock to the edge,
yeah.
I've
got them down.
I got to write this down.
Yeah. 6th, blimey.
Yeah.
If you're right, I will buy you a present at the end of the season. I need to write this down.
I've got some bold decisions, and I'm backing it this season.
Wow.
Yeah.
Darren.
So you reckon above us?
No, not above us.
No,
No.
he said
You had us in fourth, was it, last season?
Oh, yeah, he did.
I'm not. That's gonna be later, but they're not gonna finish above us. Don't worry.
Wow.
a knock to the head this week. You're
Well,
right.
Mel and I. So
You okay?
no, I'm not.
He's
all right,
delusional.
but, like, you know,
I think my face said it all. It was like,
if I'm right, then I'm just gonna be like.
if you're right, then buying you a present.
Yeah.
I'll be buying you that Osprey's 20th anniversary watch. No, I
Oh,
won't.
yes, please.
My husband would kill me. He'd absolutely murder me. Yeah. So, Rod, do you want to go? Do you want to go next, or do you want me to go next with the Turks?
I can go next. I don't mind going next. Bearing in mind, I've had a very busy week, but I think I've, got a good sort of preview of what's to come with a little bit of what went before. Obviously, there's all the coaching changes. Let's not get into that. We've discussed that to death over the first 3 podcasts. So go listen to those if you want.
From next week.
All our discussion points on that. So in terms of ins and outs, it's been a bit of a trickle of information. There hasn't been a consistent block of recruitment. Stuff was trickling through still within the last weeks and days, information wise. So step in, any of you, if I have missed any names off this list. But players that we've lost this season: George North has obviously gone to Provence. Jack Regan left for Toyota Industry Shuttles, not a team I was familiar with, but apparently that's where he's gone. Nicky Smith, to all of our, great sadness, has gone to Leicester Tigers, and I'm enjoying following his progress, his pre-season progress over there. And they're making a big social media deal of him, aren't they? Certainly, he's turning into a bit of a poster boy for them. Toby Fricker obviously went to the New England Free Jacks. Alex Cuthbert was released. I think he's expressed that he's still interested in playing rugby, but I haven't heard whether he's got a contract anywhere or whether he's had any interest.
I do.
Yeah. I think he needs to decide whether he's going to be a pundit or a player, really.
I think he's a great pundit.
He has some insight, but it was always nice having that Osprey's voice in some of those discussions, wasn't it? And a bit of an Osprey's perspective and an insight. But moving on. Matt Prothero has now signed for Hawke's Bay, which originally he was just sort of down as released, but he's recently picked up that contract with Hawke's Bay out in New Zealand. Cam Jones has signed with Cornish Pirates. That's scrum half Cam Jones, not prop Cam Jones. Chris Moore was released, and Don Morris was also released as well. In terms of signings, we have Big Will Greatbanks from Soyo. Is that how you pronounce the French Pro D2 side? We've got Phil Cocknesinger from Leicester Tigers, who is an exciting prospect in the centre. We picked up Steph Thomas from the Scarlets. There's going to be a bit of a pattern going forward. We've acquired a number of Scarlets players, including the next one, Kieran Hardy at number 9. And obviously we're all familiar with him. Doesn't need much of an introduction. The question is how much game time he gets this year, and who what his role is, particularly when Ruben Morgan Williams has been playing so well, as have some of our other options at scrum half. We've recently finalised the signing of Dan Kasende, who featured for 2 games last season. He came on loan from the Toyota Cheetahs, who's obviously one of our sister clubs in the Y11 and under the Y11 banner, which are our owners. So he's now signed a permanent contract for this season. So excited to see him on the wing. He is a different kind of winger from what we traditionally field, but exciting and certainly passionate. And if he goes into every game with the ferocity that he did against that Scarlets game last season,
he was a little niggly, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was great. Yeah, he was. You would have swear that he grew up in the Swansea Valley. Yeah. Ryan Combia has been a late pickup again from the Scarlets. He wasn't offered a contract going forward, so we picked him up on a short-term contract. If he does well, hopefully we can extend that and make him more of a permanent fixture at the club. I think he suits our playing style really well. And obviously, Keelan Giles is injured going into the start of the season, so it is much needed cover. We've also picked up a player that I'm not massively familiar with, Lucas Sataro, who, again, was not offered a contract by the Scarlets, but he was a Wales under-20 prospect who featured well for them. And for all I've heard, he seems like a good signing. Presumably he's on a relatively cheap salary, so perfect, to develop going forward. And then rumours circulating recently about a Bulls and Cheetahs player from South Africa called Robert Hunt, who, again, not too familiar with, but offers some, potentially, if he does come. Have those been confirmed now, or have I missed something in the...
Nothing confirmed.
Still rumours, is it? Still rumours.
Yeah,
so,
he did play for the Cheetahs in the Kerry Cup semi last week.
Yeah, so a bit of confusion as to whether he'll be able to play URC fixtures if he is currently on the Bulls books, but could offer some additional heft in that front row, which obviously all Welsh regions are particularly struggling with this year. Those are my ins and outs. Have I missed anybody obvious there?
No.
Okay, so in terms of just sort of how last season went and looking forward to next season, we delivered our best performance last year in the URC era for the 2023-24 season, losing in the quarterfinal against Munster out in Thomond Park, which is, it's no small feat going out there and getting a win. So can only praise the boys for how well they did. A big part of our successes last year were our heft in the front, particularly at set piece, particularly at the drive-in maul. I think we had the fourth best meters per maul in the league for last season, and I think that was an average of 3 meters per maul. But a lot of those were significantly further than that. That is just an average. We also had the 4th best maul success rate, so that's clearly a strength of ours that we need to continue into next season. We haven't had too many changes in that pack, so hopefully we can continue in the same vein. We've been really good at retaining the ball last year. We conceded the second least turnovers per game. So again, more sort of emphasis there on how we are quite a forward-dominated team, and probably alludes to the fact that maybe some of our focus in improvement and strengthening our squad going forward should be focused in the back line. We've improved in try scoring every year under Toby Booth so far. So in his first year, we had 34 tries. In his second year, we had 46. And then last year, we had 52. So maybe this year up in the 60s, if we're being optimistic. What do we think?
70s.
I don't see why we can't.
Yeah.
Don't see why we can't.
Yeah, 100%. So what else? So defensively, very, very strong, lots of turnovers. So I guess looking forward, we only had 3 wins away from home last season, and 2 of those were against Welsh rivals. So our away success does have to improve. That one other away win was obviously against a very strong South African outfit. So if we can replicate more, more games like that, we'll be on to a winner. But yeah, away form is definitely somewhere where we should focus going forward. We also shipped 61 points against both the Bulls and Leinster. That's just simply not on. We're a professional outfit. We shouldn't be leaking that many tries in a game, particularly considering the Bulls game was the week after our win over the Lions. And it was such a stark reflection of the week before. And that's probably the emotional come down after such a big win that we probably weren't anticipating as fans or as, you know, the players themselves. They probably weren't anticipating that. And there was probably a bit of that, you know, emotional come down. And so we just need to, get a bit more consistent, and we can't tolerate such big losses like that. And then I guess if we can, we just need to clean up this season against our Welsh rivals again. Last season, we got 24 out of 30 points in the URC against our Welsh rivals. So that will just give us a really good foundation to go on and, you know, to do good again this season. So, I think we've got an exciting season ahead, really. And if we can implement a few just fundamental changes that aren't necessarily, you know, rocket science to try and understand, we could be in an even better position going forward.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think it's going to be interesting to see these first rounds of games, to see how we get on to everything. You know, and it'll be certainly interesting to have a little look at that next week on our next pod.
Yeah.
So we're now.
I have got oh, sorry. I have got a couple of key players to look at as well, and sort of ones to watch. I can breeze through that in a couple of minutes. We've got some key players for us will be Dewi Lake. He's obviously a talisman. We've got to you know, give him the space to shine. Jack Morgan, he's got a big job now restoring stability after what's felt like a few weeks of disruption. He's coming back into that role. Hopefully he can stay fit and just restore a bit of confidence for fans. Max Nagy, we've just found out he's Welsh qualified now, which is news we've been waiting for ages. He was also, in terms of meters made last year, in the last season, he was the only player to get more than 100 meters per 80 minutes. So a hell of a stat. Morgan Morris, obviously, not much needs to be said there. He is what he is. If he just continues trucking on and doing what he does best, that would be fantastic. Harry Deves, Tasmanian Devil, all the energy in the world. Again, like Morgan Morris, just keep going, kid. You'll be the next Mr. Osprey. Ones to watch, we got, again, Max Nagy. Now that he's Welsh qualified, you know, keep an eye on him. He might crop up in that Welsh outfit. Dan Edwards, next fly half. I've written down with a big question, Welsh fly half, sorry, with a big question mark next to it. I think he could be there within a season or two. He's in the vein of a Dan Bigger, and I think that's what Gatlin likes. So hopefully he kicks on. And of course, Morgan Morse, what can you say, playing at the age of 17 for Wales under 20s consistently. He's the next big number 8 in Welsh rugby. You heard it here first. Over and out.
I'll write that down as well. You can have a prize as well. Yeah, so that just brings us then on to the Scarlets. I know I jest about them, but they are a great rival to have. And that there is that, you know, proper niggle there with them, isn't it? Because they're so close. But does anybody know why they're called the Turks?
No, actually,
I do.
Go on,
I've
then.
read into it before. Do you know the answer, Sam? Were you going to reveal it? If so, I'll leave it to you.
I'm going to reveal it because.
But you want to? Okay, you go.
Right. No, you say yours, and then I'll say mine, because it could be different from mine.
I didn't know the specific industry, but it was something along the lines of a lot of the fans worked in a steelworks or something like that back in the day. So they'd wear these head wraps to, you know, protect them before PPE, before proper PPE. They would just sort of wrap these scarves around their heads to protect their, you know, protect whatever, their eyebrows, their eyelashes, their hair. And it gave that impression of like a turban. So the fans would often come out of, you know, whatever factory it was, straight into the rugby match at the end of the day, and you know, it earned them the nickname the Turks. That's what I heard. Is that
That's
correct?
one of the theories. There
Okay.
isn't actually a definitive answer to this, which I was quite surprised at. So there's another two theories that are quite popular out there. One is that obviously rivalry between Llanelli and Swansea Docks. And in 1921, the Swansea Dockers went on a strike and they wouldn't let a Turkish ship dock. So the nearest port that they had to go to was Llanelli. So that's one of the theories. The other theories, which I probably, looking at the time and when they started to be known, I would probably pin my money on this one. A lot of soldiers of the Welsh regiment, with Welsh with a C, fought in the Second World War in 1912 against the Ottoman Empire, which is now Turkey. And apparently they were called the Turk Regiment, and that kind of came back. So I just thought that was a very interesting thing, because we all call them the Turks, but none of us could really know why. And everyone I've asked has given me a different answer. So, you know, it made me feel better that I couldn't find out the 100% bob on thing. Obviously a club with a long-standing history. I think I need to remind you that they beat the All Blacks in 1972.
Hey?
Because
Did they
I
really?
know, I'm so
Honestly,
good.
wow.
they don't.
I didn't have a clue.
You know what? They hardly mention it.
They don't know.
You know, they never say. But looking back at it, they've obviously had some really high points over the years. But looking at the last 3 years, they've not done too great. They reached a peak of 10th in the 2021 to 2022 season, and then 22-23 they were 13th, and last year they were 13th. Again, tricky game for them this weekend. They go to North Italy to play against Benetton. And it's always hard to go away for your first game.
It's not the opening fixture I would have wanted. Benetton
No.
flying at the moment, and there's
No.
a hell of a lot of pressure going out there now.
Yeah, you know, you're heading out, you know that you're not particularly, you know, they have had some good signings. I think traditionally last year and the year before, where they've struggled is up at their front five. They haven't had a good solid front five to build on. You know, they have got some nice pace at the back there, but I think the problem that they've had is that front five, and a lot of their signings over the summer have been in relation to that. So they have signed a hooker from the Toyota Cheetahs, Marnus Vandermeer, or Merwe, as my husband says. We have this row. Obviously, Scottish husband keeps trying to tell me that Vandermeer is a really strong Scottish name. I think he's talking nonsense. But he's coming in as hooker. Previously looked at some stuff from him. He's going to be really strong. They've signed Alec Hepburn as a prop from Exeter. Max Days from the Toyota Cannon Eagles as a lock, and Henry Thomas from Castra. So again, they're bumping up that front five, and then they've also signed Ellis Mee from Nottingham. I have not heard a lot about him as fullback. And then they've got Blair Murray from Canterbury as a kind of back three utility player. For me, looking at the one to watch, and I think they were really lucky to re-sign him, was Fifetia. I don't even want to attempt his first name because I don't want to offend the guy. But for me, I've always liked his style of play. He's big, he's dynamic, he's athletic, he can carry that ball. He can either play, you know, in your second row, or up front. And I think it's a really good thing that he's re-signed for them. I think he's going to be able to bring the other guys in and give them the depth that they need. The other guy that I quite like to look at is Max Page. I think if they can get that front five right, then they're going to be really, really strong. However, I think what is going to let them down this season, which we've suffered from before, and so I don't want to, you know, kick them while they're down, but they've not got any strength or depth in a lot of positions. So all they need is an injury, and it's gonna, you know, it's gonna really sink them. But you know, I'm hoping that front five and those signings will help them. I know I take the mickey out of them, but I think it doesn't do Welsh rugby as a whole any service if we don't have 4 strong competing regions. So as much as we want to be the best, we want to be beating the best as well. So I would like to see them building. Realistically, looking at their run of results, then I do suspect they're going to be 13th or 14th again this year. I just don't think they've got the strength and depth there that they need, really. But I don't know if anybody else has got any feelings on them and their signings this year. And
yeah, I mean, listening to previews, I've listened to a lot of preview podcasts this week, and a lot of people are bigging up the Scarlets, saying they've, you know, solved that front five issue, like you said. You know, they're going to be stronger in the pack this year. I don't know. Like you said, they're a couple of injuries away from disaster potentially. I think Dwayne Peeler's under a lot of pressure this year. I think, you know, he needs to, you know, or the team needs to sort of deliver for him early on this season. Otherwise, the pressure's going to build on him. And you know, they need to get things right early. I think, like you say, going to Benetton for the first game is tough. They won't expect to get anything from that. Obviously, if they do, it's an enormous boost for them going forward from there. Yeah, but a lot of people talking up the Scarlets, I would say, at the moment, and I'm not as convinced as some others maybe.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I just think with anything, your pack is not going to be able to come together and perform straight away. It needs time to bed in. It needs time to. It's a mysterious world, as we've said. And you know, it takes time for these things to click and to come together. So, you know, I hope it works for them. But is it going to be an instant thing this season? No, I don't think it. I don't think it is. You know, I really, really don't. But that's kind of our regional roundup.
Can I add something? Sorry.
Yeah.
Do you know that Marnus guy that you said at the beginning? He was on loan with us the previous season.
Oh, see, I didn't.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, he was one of the cheaper signings.
Yeah.
He came and played a couple. I think he was around for 3 fixtures, but did he only come on for one? I think
just
he only
one,
played one.
Just one, and then he went back in.
Yeah, and he did a good job. But yeah, what's interesting with those Scarlets, their signings, particularly the raft of signings in the forward, is that they could probably now quite easily field an entire forward pack of non-Welsh qualified players.
Yeah.
So it typically goes against what all the other teams have been trying to achieve this season, which is, you know, invest in homegrown talent, bring back players to Wales who are Welsh qualified, who have, you know, gone out to France and to England and the Prem and all that sort of stuff. So it's a complete change of strategy, it seems.
And it's still not working for them.
Well, we'll see.
We don't know.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of gelling that pack needs to do in a very, well, you know, pre-season's over now, so they won't have had long to gel. We'll see if it comes together. They obviously took a couple of hits injury-wise in those pre-seasons game within the front row. I think they lost 2 tight head props who went off with HIAs within the first 20 minutes of that pre-season game. I can't remember who it was against. And then they finished the game with 13 or 14 players on the pitch, which is insane. So yeah, no, we'll see it. Pre-season hasn't been friendly to them. Picked up a lot of bangs and knocks. But yeah, we'll see.
We've had some great interaction on our socials this week. It's really starting to pick up. And what's really nice is we're having questions through from people who've raised questions with us previously. And if I'm being honest, we've kind of covered them over the course of the pod in a roundabout way, really. another thing.
We'll give brief answers, short responses.
Answers, yeah. So, Jake Keneally, thank you very much for your question again. You asked a question last week, so really grateful. Circling back to the Ospreys, if we can get Bischoff and Hunt, can we finish top 4? Now, I know Darren's going to say yes. Rapid answer, Rod or Mark?
No.
Too much of a stretch.
Yeah.
Be very happy if it did, but can't see it.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. I think they're great players, but they're not that great.
Maybe in a few seasons.
Yeah. And then a question that was posed to me by my buddies Roger and Andrew. Hi both, love you. That's the dog getting underneath my desk. Quinbet has been announced as the sponsor for the back of the shorts today. But what's happening with the sponsor for the front of the shirt now with a side eye? Now, Darren and I were at the supporters evening. Don't want to hop back to that again. And Lance said an announcement would be coming shortly with regards to the front of the sponsor of the shirt. I know we discussed this a little bit last week with whether we were happy with the fans' shirts not having a sponsor or whatever. Do I think a sponsor's incoming? Yes, I do. But is it anything to be worried about that we've not got a sponsor on the front yet?
I think it is a slight concern, isn't it, going into the first game of the season? Sponsors are going to want that name on the shirt for the entire season. If they're missing one game already, then it's less money coming in, I guess, if the name's not on the shirt from the start. So, it's disappointing to not be there. But like you said, the promise is there to have that there sooner rather than later, isn't it?
Da?
It's just a mystery, isn't it? Could be anyone.
Could be us.
You know.
I'm not that loaded.
I don't want to say nothing, but
If I was that loaded, I'd sponsor a player. To have my face. Well, no, I wouldn't. So the other question, which we've kind of covered, really, is what our predictions for the season are and where we'll end up. We kind of covered that last week. Jack Day has said, what are your predictions for the first 15 of the season? I know, Di, you've put that up on your True Ospreys thing. And he said, I'd love to see a Keith and Fijian Phil link up in midfield. Really, I can't understand my own writing.
Maybe we can publish those. Maybe we can all go away, think about our 15s, write them down, and we can put them out on socials or something, and you can let us know what you think.
Yeah, and he's really hoping that they could take some damage from a young Dragons midfield. So, Jack, what we'll do is we'll post our predictions on our social media for you of who we think our 15 are going to be. Then Kirby Anthony said, do you think if you do join the Premiership, harking back to the British and Irish League, you will take a hit like New Zealand and Australia? Yes or no?
I think we'll struggle initially.
Yeah.
There's more money coming into the regions net from 25-26, aren't there? So we'll be more competitive at that point.
Yeah.
But to start off with, I think inevitably the regions will struggle within that structure. Yeah.
Yeah. Agree.
Certainly teams that we can beat in there. Not everyone is massively competitive at the moment. I don't think we'd be feeding off the scraps at the bottom of the pile. I think Scarlets are there to do that. But no, in all seriousness, it would be interesting. We'd certainly bring in more money through traveling support because of just geographical proximity. So that would be a bit of a boost. And we're obviously heading to St. Helens. So, it'd be amazing with what that can do, that the sort of home support can do for our team. So who knows? A windy Swansea Bay late night on a Sunday sort of fixture is not going to be an attractive prospect for an English team to play. So who knows? We could potentially do quite well. We've come up against English opposition in good English opposition within the last couple of seasons and done all right. down at a sort of hostile King's Home and come out with things to be proud of. So
who knows?
yeah, who knows? We
We'll
could do it
never
right.
know.
Well, we'll see. I think rugby needs to make some changes to be more profitable, to make it more accessible to fans. I do think the move to St Helens is going to be fantastic because we've got students who we can capture and things down there who are perhaps not from Wales. Yeah, I think we'd take a bit of a hit, if I'm being honest. But looking forward then, Darren, you have a lovely time at Rodney Parade. We'll do a post-match dissection next week. Let's hope we get that monkey off our back.
Oh, we will.
But
I'm telling you, I'm putting money on it.
Okay, you put money on that. But looking ahead then, the week after, we've got our first official home feature at Brewery Field. So we're against the Stormers, and it's going to be South African Braai for barbecue, Braai Fest. So we've gone from Brewery Field Fest to Braai Fest. Fantastic atmosphere there last few times I've been. I'm going up with my guys. Darren, Rod, you going to be there?
I'm going to be there.
I've really, really annoyed myself because I've been getting myself all excited for this, but I double booked. I had an event with my partner's family in the diary ages ago. Well, it should have been in the diary, and I forgot to put it there. And when I said dropped it into conversation with my girlfriend the other day, she was not happy that I forgot about the family event. So
to be honest,
I've been
Rod,
whipped into shape. So no, I will not be there. I was very angry with myself for making that mistake because I was looking forward to it so much. But I'll definitely be there at the Brewery Field for the Edinburgh game.
no offence, mate. You're an all right looking lad. I am old enough to be your mum, but your girlfriend, I've seen on social media, she's rather stunning. You are batting. You need to keep her up.
You're punching. It's what the word is.
I will give you a pass for that. I will be fair. I'm really looking forward to it. Mark, are you you're far away, so
yeah, my sort of sofa will be awaiting me that evening. I'll be sat with a beer and enjoy the game from my sofa.
You know what? I'll FaceTime you on WhatsApp.
Live commentary, like.
You know, and
Yeah.
So guys, get some questions into us. Comments about the game on Saturday, anything that you want us to discuss on pod. No, it's been a little bit of a longer one tonight than last week, but I hope you agree with me that Gavin coming on, we had a really good dissection on the Dragons. And, if we can do that for our other regional teams moving forward, I would love to do that, get some good fans on. So any questions for me? I know some of you have started, some of the listeners have started following me on Instagram. So on Instagram, I'm Sam Blackfeather Pod. I am posting various things, and a couple of people replied to my call out for questions. So please continue to do that. Then on X, which I kind of dip in and out of, because to be fair, since Ellen's taken it over, it's a bit of a cesspool. So I'm there as Sam BF Pod. So again, please use that. One thing I did forget, I did post on my social media today. Kylie Minogue is copying the away kit. Go on, Kyle's girl. If you haven't seen it, look, I'll repost it on my Instagram, not as a story, but she's going on tour. I'm really excited about this. Kylie is my number one day one ride or die girl crush. I love her. So the fact that all her new tension stuff looks like the away kit, as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh my God, it's like our away kit. So I think that's kind of made the decision for me now that I'm going to have the away kit.
It's rugby's strangest crossover. It's bridging two worlds there, isn't it?
My parents are from my stag originally before they emigrated. What? Hello, should not be there.
Should be at the opening ceremony for the St Helens that was singing.
Oh, do you know that I would die?
Imagine.
I love her. I first saw her in 1987 in Ritzy's in Swansea with Jason on the Pete Waterman tour. I'm showing my age now. Rod, do you want to give our socials for Blackfeather Pod?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram myself as Rodri_Ranker, but we're on Facebook and YouTube as just our podcast name, the Black Feather Pod and Ospreys Rugby Fancast. We're on Instagram, TikTok, and which one am I missing? Instagram,
Spotify.
TikTok. Sorry, what was that? Spotify as at the Black Feather Podcast. And we'll put we're working on a banner at the moment that'll be across the bottom of our videos with all our social media. So we won't have to go into this every time with all the various different handles because they aren't consistent. Yes, so we'll try and get that across the bottom of our screen, of your screens, so you can see every way to contact us there.
Banging. Mark, yours is just your username, isn't it?
I'm on screen there. So on Instagram and X, as I sit by myself watching the games on a Saturday afternoon, I'd love to get some interaction going online. So yeah, so please, I'll be sort of tweeting out some stuff on Saturday afternoon as I watch the game. So please sort of join in, and we'll get supporting from home as well as at Rodney Parade as well.
Amazing. And we can get our hashtag going. Hashtag Black Feather Pod.
Oh yeah, trending.
Let's go. Absolutely. Let's go. Da, but True Osprey?
Yeah. I don't want to like say it, but like, yeah. I'm True Osprey 96 and also Darren Black Feather Pod as well on Twitter, X.
Happy days. Well, you know the score, guys. Like, share, subscribe, tell your mates, tell your gran, tell your mum, tell your dad. Another
Give us a 5-star rating on Spotify. That really helps.
Yeah, 5-star. Can I say that I've already done that? I've got my husband or my friends to do it.
I wouldn't expect anything less.
Like that, twist his arm, even if he is a Glasgow fan. But another great podcast. Absolutely loved. This was well worth missing. Married at First Sight to spend some time with you. Get those questions in, like, comment, subscribe, and share. And until next time, my fellow Australians, may the odds be ever in our favour at Rodney Parade.
Bye for now.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we're
Bye.
out.